Today, we get to talk to a best-selling author. He's a motivational coach and speaker. He's worked with NBA teams, big executive companies, and he has spoken for and been mentioned on many notable, quotable, amazing publications. He's been noted in Forbes. He's been on Fox and MSNBC and some of these other well-known places. But if I keep sharing that list, we're not going to have a podcast. So I'm going to cut that short. And I want to introduce to you Jake Kelfer, author of Elevate Beyond, which is a world guide to standing out in the job market and discovering your passion, elevating your network, which is all about how you can build extraordinary relationships in business. Jake, welcome to the Whole Person Podcast. How are you?
Hey, Evan, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me. Pumped for our conversation. That intro was wonderful, and I appreciate you. So I'm doing good. Excited for our convo.
Good. Well, just give our audience a little bit of a background about who you are, your upbringing in the business world, and kind of what you're currently doing, so they get the idea of who Jake is and why you're so freaking awesome.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, this is the Whole Person Podcast, so I'll break it down a little bit along that framework. For me, growing up, a big part of my life was family, big part of my life was academics, and a big part of my life was athletics. Those three things played into the personality I have, which, as you can already tell, is like I bring the energy. I'm very ambitious, very driven. I've always had expectations that exceed what most people think is possible. And there's been nothing wrong with that. But throughout this journey, I've been able to learn what it means to pursue success relentlessly, to create your own definition of success, while at the same time enjoying the process of living a wonderful life. And so growing up, I'm very blessed. Like I said, family was a big part of my life growing up. Two parents who I love dearly, who have taught me incredible lessons, a younger brother who has supported me through everything that we've gone through. And academics and athletics played another big part in that. So everything that I did growing up was to be the best athlete, the best student, the best person I can be. And that slowly led into figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, how much effort I wanted to put into school, what types of people did I want to get involved with as I grew up. And when I graduated from high school, I actually ended up going to the University of Southern California. It was my dream school of mine, thought that I had it all figured out, right? Thought that I was going to go to college, thought that I was going to become a sports agent, thought that I was going to make millions of dollars, go buy a house.
Show me the money.
Exactly. Show me the money, baby. And what I quickly realized by the time I graduated was that there was so much more to life than just what I thought success was. There was so much more out there than just pursuing something relentlessly, but not enjoying every moment along the way, or savoring the relationships, or making memories, or having those experiences. And so over the last 4 or 5 years, I've really dedicated myself to figuring out how to grow businesses that make a big impact, that help a lot of people, that I have a ton of fun doing, while also building profit in my life and business for the people that I want to take care of. And so now what I do is I focus on helping people, ambitious entrepreneurs and freedom seekers create their dream business and life. I write books, I speak all over the world, and I help NBA draft prospects sign their first pro contract. So that kind of is the journey of how it started with family, friends, and athletics and academics. And it's turned into a life filled of family, love, academics, athletics, and passion for making the world a little bit better than when I got here.
That's awesome, man. Well, that's a very full life, and it's really neat. So you are a sports agent in some capacity then?
In a way, I work with a lot of agents. I'm not an officially licensed or registered agent by any means, but a lot of our work is working with sports agents. And I found a way 2 years after I graduated from college, I found a way to get into that agency world in some capacity and be able to work with agents. Because the agents are the ones that send their players to our big combine that we host almost every year.
That's awesome, man. So tell us a little bit more about what it means to, with your book, Elevate Beyond, and creating and then elevating your network of people around you.
Yeah, so I kind of like the word elevate, and it kind of just became my word when I was trying to come up with a title for the first book. And what the word elevate is for me is that every interaction that I have, okay, whether it's this interaction with you, whether it's an interaction with a roommate, whether it's interaction with a random person on the street, every interaction that I have, I want to elevate that person in some capacity. Meaning that by the time I'm done with them, I want to put a smile on their face. I want them to think about something a little bit differently, right? Different interactions cause for different types of elevation. But at the end of the day, every single interaction I have, I want it to be an elevated experience for both myself and that other person, because I'm all about next level, right? Enjoying that next level, getting that next level, while also creating those moments along the way. And so Elevate Beyond, the first book, I mean, that was all about taking my experiences of getting my first job with the Lakers and combining it with experts, incredible people to really showcase to the college student and the recent grad and the high school senior to say, hey, this is how you stand out in the job market. This is how you can elevate your experience. And then with Elevate Your Network, my second book, which, by the way, we'll give every listener here a free copy at the end of this. With Elevate Your Network, it's all about realizing that in business and in life, the key to your success and the key to your happiness is based on the people you surround yourself with. And we know that in business, if you don't have customers, you don't have a business, right? If you're trying to go on a romantic date and you don't have someone show up, you're not going on a date, right? You're not getting to that next level. And so elevating your network is really all about this idea of being able to expand the life that you want, create the life that you want by leveraging the people around you, that creates mutual wins and fun experiences for everybody.
How does a person go about elevating and building a network? Because I remember when I first got into real estate, other than the people that knew me from college, really, I had no network. I had no connections. Now I'm 7 years into it. It's different because it's developed over time. But if someone is wanting to develop networks and relationships quicker, how would you go about developing that? Because essentially part of the whole person is friendships, and network is another word for developing good connectedness with friends.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a ton of ways to talk about building your network and really growing that. But, I can give a couple of ideas when it first comes to it, especially when you're starting out, whether it's starting in a career, starting a new business, is you got to first identify, right? You got to identify exactly who you want to be talking to. And we call this part of the connection game plan is what we call it. And you got to figure out exactly do you want to talk to, and why do you want to talk to them? Okay. Because if you're going to start in a career, if you're going to start a business and you try to talk to everybody, well, you're going to be wasting a ton of time, right? Because everybody is really nobody, in the sense of you could send 1,000 emails and maybe get 100 back. But if you send 100 really deep emails, you might get 30 to 50 intimate relationships. And those relationships are going to be the foundation of the rest of your business, the rest of your career, right? In real estate, let me ask you a question. How many people have you over these 7 years gotten to know and then they've referred you business or they've introduced you to somebody else, right? Like how many of the people have done that for you over the last 7 years?
Quite a few.
Quite a few. And you would attribute some of your success based off your ability to take care of those initial people, the people that bought in early when you were beginning, because you wanted to show them an incredible experience. You also want to make sure that you can get paid, take care of your family, and continue on in the rest of the whole person lifestyle that you choose to live, right?
Right.
And so the big thing when we talk about elevating our network is to really understand, okay, who do we want to talk to? Why do we want to talk to them? Now, one of the things that most people forget when we're building a network is that it's not just about getting to know someone for the sake of what you can gain from them. And a lot of people will be like, well, Jake, I'm here to make relationships. I'm here to do this. But look, the truth is you're there for a specific reason. And the key is to make that reason known, but also do it in an authentic way. And that's one of the things that's the hardest for most people when really trying to expand a network, to grow into more customers, to get more referrals, or to do things like that. So what I always tell people is get clear on who you want to talk to, get clear on why you want to talk to them, get clear on where they're located, and get clear on how you can reach out to them in a way that immediately adds value, immediately shows them that you're in it for a bigger reason than just to get access to their network, their contact, or their bank account.
Right. So you've been around a lot of successful people. You speak at conferences. What are some skills that I would have to become a top producer? What are some things that, if I keep hitting this glass ceiling, how do I break through it and stand out in the job market or in the business world?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that really play a role in somebody's ability to connect with someone at an emotional level that drives the next phase. And some of those things are taking you back to the basics and the lessons and the things that you've learned when you were growing up as a kid. But there's a reason why we're taught some things super early on in our life. It's because they're that important no matter how old you get. And two of the most underrated skills that somebody can have if they want to advance their career is being a good listener and asking the right questions. And there's a difference here. There's a very big difference between asking a question where you think you already know the answer to and asking a question that's going to generate the right answer to advance your progress. Okay? And then on the flip side is being able to receive the actual answer and listen and process to what that person is specifically saying. Because a lot of times when we listen to someone, we hear what they're saying, but we kind of just say, okay, and then we listen to respond. Well, we need to listen with the intent to understand, to validate, and then to formulate. And when you can do that, well, now you're showing the other person through your body language, through your processing, through time, the seconds, you're showing them that you're here in this conversation, right? You're showing them that you're here to advance wherever it is that you want to go. So it's really important when you want to break through your ceiling is to identify, right? It's identify what questions you need to ask, right? And specifically when it comes to with people is, are you listening to the right things? Are you consuming your mindset with the right thoughts? Are all of these things coming together? Because that's how you create the whole person. And we'll keep going back to that. That's how you create the whole person, right? And aligning your future career, your current career, your future business with the lifestyle that you anticipate living.
Man, how did you respond to that? That was really good. One of the things that really stuck out to me in what you were saying is listening to understand and not listening to respond. And then when you do respond with the right question, not necessarily one that you know the answer to, but one that would further advance the conversation or the relationship. So how does a person go develop that skill?
So you just did it. And I want to use this as an example, okay? I want to use this as an example because people are listening and be like, well, what did he just do? What did he just do, right? Because you're like, oh, is that the secret? Is this it? Well, I'm gonna let you in. So
Thank you, because I tried to do that, by the way.
Right. I'm sure as I was saying that stuff, you were thinking, okay, what am I going to do now, right? Now, here's where it gets really tricky because you could start to think about, okay, I want to get a good thing, but then you forget what they were actually saying, and you forget what you wanted to say in the first place. But what you just did was exactly one of the things that we tell a lot of people do, and this is a sales thing as well, and you probably practice this in sales, is when someone's saying something, part of understanding what someone's saying and listening with the intent to understand and process and validate is actually being able to repeat what they said in a different form, right? So you took that, what I just said, and you repeated it in a way using my own language, making me feel heard, because that's one of the basic desires in our life is we want to feel heard and valued and feel that we matter. You made me feel heard, and then you formulated that with another question that's going to be valuable for your listeners, right? And that's one of the things that I recommend. So whenever you're talking to someone in a sales meeting, whenever you're talking with someone in an interview, whenever you're getting to know somebody, is try to understand literally what are they saying and then repeat it back to them and then add on. It's almost like an improv when you say yes and, right? They're always talking about this idea that you roll with the punches and you come back and say something else. Now, let me make it very clear here. You're not always going to agree with everybody that you're talking to. Right? You may have different political views. You may have different opinions. You may want to negotiate. You may be on one side of the spectrum. They may be on the other side of the spectrum. The point here is not to disrespect. The point here is to listen, to process, to validate, and then be respectful in that response moving forward. So you asked the question of what can people actually do here? It's pause. When someone's listening, it's not just thinking about, okay, what am I going to say next per se, but it's about taking in what they're saying, evaluating it, spitting it back out in another form, and then furthering on to deepen that relationship and emotional connection.
You articulated that so well, much better than I think I could have. So thank you for that.
I appreciate you.
So how old are you?
27.
27. So I'm 32. And one of the things that I have struggled with in my life is creating goals that are realistic for where I'm at in my life. I've been taught to create high octane goals, very high ceiling goals, and then to double that and then to attain it. But then I never did. And then I felt bad about who I was as a person. And then that motivated me about negative percentage. Like I just couldn't, it was hard for me to move on from feeling like a failure, feeling like I couldn't reach my goal, feeling I was unworthy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started lowering my goals and lowering my expectations of myself with my own current ability did I start seeing progress. And once I started seeing progress, then I could raise the goal. And then I started making more progress, and then I could raise the goal. For people who are in the same area of life that we're at, just starting their career or looking to change careers and start developing goals and aspirations and building this idea of what they want their future to look like, what advice would you give someone along the way to be able to do that, but to do it sustainably so they don't burn themselves out?
So let me turn it back on you real quick here. When you started having these goals, right? You had these big goals, you didn't hit, and you started to feel that, right? And so you started to change the goal perspective. All the goals along the way that you currently are hitting, are they still getting you closer to the one goal that you had set at the very beginning?
I mean, yes and no, because, real estate wise, I'd love to get 60 houses sold a year. So it renews every year. Am I growing each year? Yes. Have I hit that 60? No. And that 60 is a high mark. The average real estate agent sells like 3. And I fluctuate between 10 to 15 to 20, depending on the volume of houses. If it's a higher expensive house, I tend to sell less, but more of those. Or if I'm selling a lot of little houses, I sell, more of those. Sure. Did that answer your question or was I just rambling? Okay.
Exactly. Because here's the thing. What you said there is you still know what that target number is, right? But that target number for you wasn't attainable right away. But that 60 is going to happen, right?
Right.
And you believe you'll get there, right?
I don't know. I'm hesitant.
But you're going for it, right? Like you're doing everything you're doing is in pursuit of that higher thing.
True.
Okay. Right. You'll see where I'm going with this in just a second, because here's the thing. When we set goals that sometimes are absolutely outrageous, it's very hard to go from 10 a year to 60 a year, right? Or in any career or any business that someone has, it's hard to go from, if you're making $0 to make 1 million that next year, right? That's hard to do. Not impossible. Nothing's impossible really, but that's very hard to do. So when I talk about goals, and I've gone through this myself, I set these huge goals and then I'm like, there's just no way that's even possible for me to get to. Like, what am I thinking, right? So what I really recommend when you're thinking about setting goals is first, you got to identify what is it that you really want to achieve the goal for, right? What do you really want to achieve any goal for specifically, right? Now, if you're saying, I want to sell, let's just use your example here. I want to sell 60 houses so I can make X amount of money. Well, why do you want to make that amount of money, and how is that going to impact your life? If it's just to say you have that much amount of money, you're also not going to be as motivated to act upon that goal. Whereas if you were to say, I want to make X dollars because this is going to take care of my family, it's also going to give us a vacation, it's going to remove all of our debt. Well, now you're saying, okay, this is something, there's a why behind the goal. And now you can break that down, which leads us into the second part, is once you've identified why it is that you even want this goal and how it's going to benefit your life when you achieve it, then it's about breaking it down into smaller, achievable wins. Now, I'm a big believer in tiny habits, small actions leads to big results. Because everything that we've always seen, whether it's a goal or a career or a life, a lot of times when we look at successful people, we look at where they're at now and where they're going, right? But we never tend to look back and reflect on the journey that got him there, right? You look at The Rock. The Rock had $7 in his pocket. Now he's one of the richest actors in the world. You look at Lewis Howes, a very successful entrepreneur, millionaire entrepreneur, was broke on his sister's couch after not being able to play football. The goal that they aspired to be and the person they've always aspired to be evolves along the way, because just as your goals will change and evolve. So is your life. You're going to have kids. You're going to get married. You're going to get a different job. You're going to make an adjustment. You're going to have to spend time with your family. You're going to move. So many factors play into that. So when you're talking about goal setting, you got to identify something that's challenging, but not completely out of reach where it'd be a miracle if you hit it, but something that's challenging so it's not too easy. Too easy is never good. But when you do something that's challenging, it'll increase your motivation to do it. But then the key thing here is to break it down into smaller actionable items. So if you want to, and I'll give another example here right now. If you want to achieve a goal of running 100 miles in a month, okay? Let's take a fitness goal here. But you don't run, you're not going to be able to just go out there and run 20 miles 5 days and achieve that goal. So what I say, if you want to run 100 miles in a month, you can do that. Yeah. You got to break it down into smaller actions. And what that looks like is, okay, what's the first step? Well, the first step is going to be putting that on paper. The second step is going to be putting your clothes out the night before. Shoot, you may even need to buy a pair of running shoes before you do that. Then you need to put your clothes out the night before. Then you need to set the time of when you're going to run. You got to schedule it. You know just as well as I do. If it doesn't go on the schedule, it ain't happening, right?
Right.
Put it in the schedule. Hey, here's 30 minutes. Okay, then you got to walk a mile. Then you got to run a mile. Then you got to sign up for a 5K. Then you do a 5K. And maybe throughout that month, you start to get longer and longer, and you break it down into small goals. Okay, 100 miles in a month. Let's break it down. That first week is just going to be getting the mindset right. That means I need to run 100 miles in 21 days, about 5 miles a day. Okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going, right? And you just build it and break it down so that you're able to achieve that goal quicker. Now, if you've never run, and I'll kind of come together full circle here, is if you've never run, maybe 100 miles in a month is not a realistic goal, but maybe 30 miles in a month is. And you could start by doing the process that I've just shared, eventually working your way up from never running to 3 miles a day at the end, which will get you to 30. And then you're running 3 miles a day. Well, guess what next month's goal is? 100 miles in a month. And guess how many miles you have to run a day to get to 100 miles in a month? About 3.33 miles, depending on the month of the year. Well, now you've just broken it down, and it continues to evolve so you can continue to grow and get closer to the ultimate thing, which is the identity that you want to have.
So as you're sharing that, one thing that I'm picking up on in both what you're saying and The Rock as an example that you used is, so 100 miles is realistic, but it might not be realistic right now. It might be realistic a year from now, but you just got to get your butt up off the couch. And then you need to build the consistency and the habits and the endurance and the ability. And once you start developing the ability, then once you have that, then it becomes realistic. And so at first it might be unrealistic, but you can move from unrealistic to realistic and then probable and then accomplish it. And I really like the example that you used with The Rock because, so when The Rock came out with Scorpion King, I was in middle school, which is about 20 plus years ago. And it took him at least 17 or 18 years before he became the number one male actor in pretty much all the world. 18 years from his first movie before he started dominating the movie scene. And his goal was to dominate the movie scene 18 years ago. But it took him 18 years. Yeah. And he's just never relented.
Yeah, we want to see the end result faster, right? We all want the shortcut, right? We all want the secret sauce. I have this vision, I have this dream. Let me just get there and let me take the elevator up to success, right? But as we know, time and time again, no person has the goal one day and then achieves it the next day completely randomly and then is at the top of the game in their industry. It's just not the way life works. And I think part of the reason that's not the way life works is because the process, one, eliminates people that aren't committed to becoming and deserving of the best, but it also requires you to learn so many life lessons along the way. And I think that when people make it to the top of their field or make it to their definition of success or start to achieve their big goals in life, they start to realize and learn a lot more about themselves in that pursuit. And that's become one of the greatest things for me as someone that did have and does still have the craziest ambitions and goals out of everybody that I know. But at the same time, I know that each step along the way is something to enjoy and to be proud of and to keep moving on. Because that way, if I never reach it, well, I've still lived a great life. but I'm never going to stop pursuing to be great. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. So you don't know this, and those that are listening might, depending on how new or old they are. One of the difficulties that I've had in my life is loving who I am where I'm at. I've always had this version of myself, this perfect version of myself that I'm trying to attain, which made it harder for me to enjoy where I'm at. And it wasn't until I had someone on the podcast that pointed this out and like helped me have a paradigm shift, mid podcast, which was amazing. And it all goes back to enjoying, like you're saying, the journey that you're committed to, but knowing that it takes a commitment to the process, that it's not just going to happen overnight, and that it's about the journey, not specifically the destination. There's a lot of things that you're going to learn along the way to develop the skills and the abilities to actually make those dreams come true. And I want to highlight, I want to put a magnifying glass on the specific 4 words you used: commit to the process, because I feel like those 4 words say it all. It's a process that takes commitment. It's not a microwave meal that you'll get in 3 or 4 minutes that tastes like crap. If you want it to be good and you want it to be of value and nutrients and sustainability, it's going to take the process of going to the store, buying the food, bringing it home, cooking it, putting it in the oven. You got the prep, you got the cook, and then you get to sit down and enjoy the meal. And then you got dishes afterwards. Don't forget that there's dishes. And I love what you're saying, because when you commit to the process, when you take that grocery store analogy, the food analogy, we want instant microwavable meals, but those are trash. If we want the real deal, it's going to take a process. So feel free to add on to that, ask questions. I'm just going to sit here and just ponder that for a second.
Well, I got 2 things I want to touch base on that. And the first one, I love the food analogy, but here's the other thing, right? You talk about the dishes at the end, right? Getting the ingredients might still be fun because you're anticipating what the event's going to be, right? You're in the process, right? Then you make the meal and it's delicious. It exceeds your expectation. You're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable, right? This is equivalent to starting to have some great success, right? Then at the end, you realize, oh shoot, I got to do the dishes. And you're like, oh, damn it. Like, nobody wants to clean the dishes, right? But guess what? If you're committed to a process to achieving greatness, the dishes are the things that you don't want to do every day. The dishes are showing up on the days where you're not feeling like showing up. The dishes are when you run that mile in the morning when you know you're tired or your legs are a little sore from your workout yesterday. The dishes are the things that are the fundamental truths of what makes it possible to achieve something better the next time, right? And I think about it in that standpoint as you're talking about that, because then it leads you into this question is, well, it sounds great. And the food analogy is great. And it sounds great to enjoy the journey and to commit to the process. But how do I enjoy this journey? Because this is the question that no one really dives into, right? Because most of the time we talk about, okay, a lot of people talk about the journey, not the destination. And that's great. But how do you actually enjoy the journey? Because I was a destination guy. And now I'm a journey guy in the pursuit of a greater destination, but that destination isn't finite. And the journey, the way you enjoy the journey is by savoring the moments of your life, by thinking and enjoying being fully present of where we're at today, right? Like, we're in this podcast, like having a blast. You got an American flag on there. You got the screen going on. You got the great white glasses. Like, this is a blast. Like, we're having a fun time right now. And anyone that's listening, I hope you guys are also having a really fun time. But that's about savoring the moment, right? Really enjoying it as it's happening and trying to appreciate the little details as they're coming up. And then you also got to think about, how else can I enjoy the journey? Well, you got to celebrate the wins along the way. Because too often when you're in the pursuit of a destination, the pursuit of a goal, in the pursuit of some type of business client, you're only focused on that as the win. When in reality, there are a ton of wins in the commitment to the process of getting there. Mm-hmm. There's a win in the pursuit of saying, yes, we did a great podcast. That's a win, right? There's a win in creating your top 3 priorities for the day and executing that. That's a win, right? There's a win in being able to come home. And if you're married, to kiss your significant other, your spouse, your partner, right? If you have kids, it's about coming home and spending an hour with them. These are all wins. And even if they don't mean that you've hit your ultimate end mark, those are all ways to enjoy the experience, right? And then the last thing I'll share really specifically about how do you enjoy the journey is practicing gratitude. Gratitude is scientifically proven, and it's worked on my life about appreciating the now and the present and what's going on in this pursuit of greatness. And it's helped me become more focused on what's happening. It's helped me become more focused in my journaling practice. It's helped me become more appreciative of the people around me. I started to enjoy nature, which I never did, but gratitude has had so many incredible benefits that have aided to this pursuit.
Dude, so good. Several things. You are spot on with gratitude. So I started waking up at 4 a.m., journaling, devotional, positive affirmations, working on a book. And over the past week and a half, I haven't gotten up at 4. But one major thing shifted, and I didn't realize this until right now. Even though I was going to bed early so that I'd wake up on time, when I woke up, I wouldn't do it. What shifted was I stopped writing my gratitudes in the evening. And the moment I stopped doing that, for whatever reason, I stopped getting up in the morning. And I didn't know that until right now. So, wow. I'm having okay. So I'm going to have to be intentional, because what happened is I went from writing my gratitudes in the evening to, I'll just write them in the morning when I wake up. But if I wasn't doing it in the evening, then I wouldn't wake up in the morning for a while. So that just blew my mind. And then the other thing too, that you talked about is savoring the moments in life right now. You mentioned the glasses, the hat, the environment, things around us. But then I'm also realizing I have a lot of squirrels out in my yard that I'm seeing right in front of me. I have some mess over here. My books are piled and disorganized, and I look organized here, but my desk here is kind of piled up with a whole bunch of work. And, I could be focusing on all this stuff instead of you and be distracted. And what I've realized as we're talking, what are things that distract us from enjoying the moment? Because there's things that are trying to rob our attention. And I'll just say right off the bat, it's this one device right here for sure. And it's, for those of you who are listening, it's a cell phone. What other areas of life, Jake, from your experience, from things that you've noticed, things that distract us from being able to enjoy the journey and the moments that we're living in, from what's keeping us from experiencing the moments that we're living in?
There's millions of things that distract us every second, right? Anytime you get a ping on your phone, like you said, the cell phone's a big distraction. There's a variety of distractions on your phone even, right? There's the different ideas of thoughts that are running through your head when you're not focusing on the conversation, but thinking about something else. There's the distractions of, of the bad habits that satisfy you, right? There's a distraction of all types of things. Really, everything that we do can be equated and simplified with a distraction of the opposite side, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that specifically is like everything that we do, and every time that we're trying to be productive, and time we're trying to enjoy the moment, can be offset by a simple distraction, right? You talk about clutter, you talk about having things where they're not supposed to be. Part of that is a simple distraction. Just having that there is a distraction because it's taking space up in your brain. Not having your day planned out, distraction. Not being able to know when you have to be somewhere, distraction, right? So when it comes down to it, and you talk about productivity, talk about creating and designing your perfect life, you got to eliminate these distractions by going on your phone and putting app limits on there. Putting on your phone, setting screen time and downtime, do not disturb, right? Doing things like the Pomodoro technique, which, are you familiar with it?
I have no idea what that is. I was just going to ask.
So I'm speaking over here. I'm speaking like Italian. Pomodoro, using on tomato sauce, going back to our food analogy. But really what I'm talking about is this is a productivity hack, right? You want to eliminate distractions? Well, do this, right? Say you need to get something done. You know you got a big task to do. Okay, put your phone on Do Not Disturb, set a timer for 25 minutes. Therefore, your phone can no longer be a distraction for those 25 minutes. Make sure everything else is blocked off for that 25 minutes, and you work solely on one singular task. Just that one task, assuming you know it's going to take you, 30 minutes or so on average, not just something that's going to take you 5 minutes. The point here is you do a task, and that task is the only thing that you focus on for those 25 minutes. At the end of that 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute breather. 5-minute breather, you could call it a reward for doing a great job without distractions. Go on your phone for 5 minutes. Take a walk for 5 minutes. I don't care what you do. People will say do certain things. I don't care. Just take a break, because what you just did was you got concentrated for 25 minutes. Do that 3 times in a row, and then take a 30-minute break. Enjoy yourself. Go have lunch. Go do whatever. Go have breakfast. Go work out. The point here is that when you want to eliminate distraction, you have to replace that with a reason to be focused, the reason to stay focused, right? And then you want to take it one step further. And this is for the people that are like, Jake, you're firing me up right now. Like, I'm juiced up. Like, I need to get to that next level. Is when you wake up, right, you talk about doing your gratitude the night before so you can get up early and get rolling. Tackle that most important task right away. I'm not even talking about after you've done the basic stuff. I'm talking about literally get out of bed, do what you got to do, go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, get situated and do that task. Now, immediately, Evan, your mind probably goes to work when I say your most important task. But we're talking about the whole person. And the whole person is designed to perform at our highest level when our most important task is in alignment with the person we are. So for some people, that most important task may be a work task. That most important task may be exercise. That most important task may be reading, prayer, meditation, whatever it is. But that's another way you get that going. That starts your day. Now you have a win under your belt, which is likely to create more wins. You have a positive experience, which now is making your brain start to seek out these experiences. And you've started to execute on high-level tasks, which is going to propel your day into being a high-level day. And I always say this, the more high-level days you have, the more wins you're going to create in your life. The more wins you create compared to losses means you're more likely to compete for a championship. The more likely you compete for a championship, the opportunities are for you to become a champion. When you become a champion, you become the best version of yourself. And that's why it's so important to eliminate. We started talking about distractions. Now we're talking about championship games over here. That's the evolution of what something so simple can create in your life.
The Belichick way, maybe. I don't know. That's maybe his game plan. So as you're saying all of this, what would you say some traits are of successful people that you've been around, that you've seen, that you've studied?
Some of the traits that are common across a lot of people that I work with, that I know that are high performers, high achievers, is a morning routine. A morning routine is super, super important. And waking up early is something that I believe is a huge opportunity. And a morning routine is something that's super powerful. Having discipline in times that it matters is very important. And then singularity of focus is something that I'm seeing, and really being aware to it even more so now is something that's so important. And what I mean by singularity of focus is a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs or people that are in sales roles, have a lot of ideas, right? There's a lot of ideas that come through the noggin. And to be honest, most of you guys who are listening, those ideas are probably incredible ideas. Sure, some are going to be the worst that have ever happened, and you're just going to have those. But some are probably really, really great. Here's the challenge. A person that works on 10 great ideas will never achieve as much as one person working on an incredible idea to the 10th degree. Because our ideas and our momentum essentially builds on that momentum. And if we start to dilute that and slow down that snowball going down the hill, we're going to slow down our momentum of what we can achieve. We talk about going back to our goals. If you have a goal to sell a certain number of houses, but then you start to come up with 5 different ways on how you're going to sell those houses, that's going to take away from the one way that you know is really working. Now, of course, you may have to diversify and things like that, but a singular focus means going after one thing for 1 year with one audience, with one energy source, and pursuing that like 100% and then making your adjustments.
I got a question. I'm raising my hand here.
Yes.
Okay. So let's take this from theoretical to now you're going to coach me here for a second. Okay.
Done. Let's do it.
All right. There are 3 things I am currently working on in my life. Okay. outside of like morning routine and stuff. One, developing a podcast that is big and successful. It has more success than I thought it would have by year one. So that's already great, but I want more and I want to make money doing this. Okay. So that's one goal. Very soon, I want to make money doing this. Two, I want my real estate business to grow. Three, I want to write a book. And I started to. I have maybe like 15 pages, but I have it written for about a week and a half now. Okay. So
I got you.
I have 3 different things that are really important to me that I want to do that all are coinciding at the same time. I can't stop real estate because that's how money's coming in. But I don't want to stop the book or the podcast because that's planning for the future. That's also developing another system. So if I can't hyper focus on one thing in my life right now and just like, I'll stop podcasting, I'll stop writing because then I'm backtracking in some way. So I don't know.
I got you.
Help me make sense of this. You got me. You got me. Let's do this.
I got you. Let's roll. Okay. So we got a podcast. We want to make money doing a podcast. We got a book we want to get written, and we got the real estate that we want to keep growing. Now, let me tell you one thing right off the bat. And if anybody's listening, this is a verbal change that's going to change your mindset immediately. Instead of saying you want, you say I desire. Okay? Because a want is something that's not as powerful as a desire. A desire is something stronger. There's a lot of other reasons to get into it, but I just want you to immediately switch that and catch that. Anytime you start saying, I want this, or I want to do this, start saying, I desire this. You're starting to attract it, right? You're like a magnet. Magnets don't want, magnets desire, they attract, okay? So you're desiring to achieve these things. You're desiring to have these things. Next, when you talk about this podcast, right? When you talk about the book, when you talk about real estate, let's talk about the pod. And we're doing super fast here. I'm just gonna get into it deep. When you're talking about the podcast, right? It's a great podcast. You've already seen great success. You want to start making money for it. How does this serve you as a person to build your real estate?
How does podcasting serve me to build real estate? That's a great question. I'm not 100% for sure.
Okay, so I'll tell you this. There's a few ways to do it, right? You can start angling your podcast in a variety of different ways, diving into specifically real estate people who are a whole person who have done great success across their life. You could tie in other people talking about different sales techniques. You can start to choose the people that are going to help you develop the skills you need to be better at real estate, to make more money, to get closer to 60 houses a year. The point is, this podcast, the best way you're going to do it is you're going to got to get specific, right? Talk about the whole person. How do you get more specific about talking about the whole person, right? What are the types of people that you can bring on? Is there an end result for the listener, right? What are all these things? Now, the listeners are getting incredible value from a lot of your episodes. How do we take that one up? Okay. Better yet, what are you offering people or directing people who listen to the podcast? Where are you sending them to then learn more about you that also gives you an opportunity to make money? For example, after this, do you have a way for them to follow you, to get to know maybe the whole person guide? I know you got the wheel on the website. Do you have that in PDF form that people can sign up for with a little explanation? Then do you have an offer that's $17 that follows that leads them into your funnel? Then say, hey, by the way, I also do real estate. And if you're moving in these locations, I got you, right? What about your book? And we can dive deeper into all these. I would love to hear your comments, but I'm going to just keep rolling here. Let's talk about your book for a second. What type of book do you want to write? Who's it going to be for? What is it about? Let me hear you go through that real quick.
So my book, I don't know if I want to tell people this yet.
You could give a general idea, right?
So
give a general idea.
My book is following my journey of, it's kind of like a journalistic view of trying methods to rewire my mind so that I can have the production and the life that I want.
Amazing. Guess what that's going to be great for?
This podcast.
It's going to be great for this podcast. Guess what else it's going to be great for? It's going to be great for getting your real estate agents to see the side of you that's not just the salesman. That's not just the real estate guy. All 3 of these things, as we've just very clearly stated, tie into real estate, right? Tie into the thing that's driving you money. Now, the question I want to ask you is real estate thing that you want to be doing for the rest of your life in terms of being able to get paid for? Because that's another big question that we have to ask ourselves.
It is not.
Okay. Do you know what is?
Yes. Public speaking, writing books, coaching, mentoring.
Okay.
That's the direction I'm wanting to move.
Fantastic.
Long term.
So long term, right? And you're doing all the things there. That's why you started the podcast. That's why you want to write these books. Now, the big thing, and we're not going to spend another hour going over this. We could talk for hours about this stuff. But the big thing that I want to challenge you to do with all these things is, how does it tie into the life you're trying to create? Okay. How does each one of these benefit the future, right? The more deals you sell in real estate, the more money you have to reinvest into the pod, the book, to get different guests, to get better guests maybe for you, that you determine, right? The more you focus on this pod, you work on the branding, you work on getting certain guests can lead to next level businesses, right? Here's the beautiful thing. You've interviewed a bunch of great people. People will pay for the knowledge in a simplified version. That's how people make money selling online, right? People share their knowledge in a way that produces a result that somebody's looking for. Now, if I were to ask you this, do you think you could help people right now, currently, help them reprogram their mind just based off the information you've already gathered and learned from this podcast alone?
100%.
Then therefore you are able to start making money by doing that and starting to get closer to your dream.
Hey guys, if you want, you can call me and check me out on my website. I do have a coaching program out there, so feel free to take me up on it. Go ahead.
And that's a great pitch right there, right? But it's also letting people know what it is that you're trying to do and how we're trying to get there. So when you look at those three things, you love the pod. The podcast is a passion project. You like it. You're starting to turn that into money. Well, what are the ways to now make money doing it, right? Is it through the listeners? Is it through sponsors, right? Is it through other methods? Right? Those are the things that you got to start evaluating, right? You take what we talked about goal setting, right? Take it down. How much money do you want to make on the pod? Maybe you want to make your first $1,000 that comes from the podcast. Okay, great. How are you going to do that? Well, you create an ebook. That's a mini version that gets your writing skills better to help you with your book, right? You could create a mini program, a 5-day challenge on the whole person. And each day you talk about a different aspect of the person, pulling out your favorite quotes and lessons from your guest speakers, mixed with your own spin. That's how I wrote my first book, became an Amazon bestseller, sold thousands of copies worldwide. Was because I took my experiences as a 22-year-old that just got my first job with the Lakers, combined it with people from entrepreneurs to NFL athletes to professors to Apple employees, put it together, put it in 130 pages, and started selling it and help people land their dream job. I solved a specific problem for a specific person and had a great message, which added credibility to who I already was. Right there, that's what you got. You can make that happen. And so anyone that's listening, what I really want to stress by what we're talking about here is, wherever it is that you're going, all these things lead back to the ultimate goal, the ultimate vision, the ultimate life. But it's about breaking it down and taking the actions that are relatable to getting you there.
That's awesome. Well, I know you have to go soon, so I like to end the show with the same 3 questions. All right. And these are for you to answer. What is the biggest lie in self-talk you had or currently struggle with?
I'd say something, and it's just getting real, man, is one of the things that I struggled with when I was first starting, and it's been a ever evolving journey, was equating the amount of money I made in my business to the amount of self-worth I had. And as an entrepreneur who is one and the same with the business, oftentimes I tended to equate the amount of money I was making with how much value I had as a person. And it was only until I started a business that I even had these thoughts. Meanwhile, I had done some incredible things, but I had allowed that limited scarcity mindset stop me from thinking abundantly and what's to come. And that was part of the problem, which in a weird way led me to realizing how to enjoy the journey more in the pursuit of excellence, which has also now led me to having an incredibly abundant mindset. So, you look at it that way and it kind of reframes it into something really powerful.
What brings you peace?
I mean, there's a lot of things that bring me peace, but sometimes it's just sitting in my own thoughts. Other times it's having a wonderful conversation with my parents or brother. Other times it's hanging out with friends and having a cold Coors Light. But peace for me is just when I can be doing something where I'm just fully in the present moment. And I try to surround myself with experiences that I know have given me that feeling in the past.
What's the best decision you've ever made?
The best decision I've ever made is to pursue my definition of success relentlessly and to figure out how to enjoy it in the process.
That's awesome. Jake, man, thank you so much for coming on to the Whole Person podcast today, for the life experiences, the gift of sharing everything with us, and some of the coaching that we did, man. I just thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find more information about you and what you're doing and your books and products?
Yeah, the best way for anyone that's listening is to find me on my Instagram, which is at Jake Kelfer, just my first and last name. That's where I'm hanging out the most, or my website, jakekelfer.com. And then for everyone that's listening, as promised earlier on, if you're interested and you want to dive more into the concepts of Elevate Your Network and see what we do with people and how we teach them how to build a network, you can all grab a free copy of that book, which is on my Instagram. There's a link in the bio. You can grab it in our free Facebook group called the Elevation Station on Facebook, or you could just visit my website and you can grab it there. All you got to do is cover the small shipping and it'll be on your doorstep in no time.
Awesome. Jake, man, thank you so much for coming on to the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Evan. Appreciate you.
Take care.